What's going on, everybody? The original Mako TCG back with another video, and today I'm joined by my friend, this Poison Dagger here, because as you can probably tell from the title of the video, I was able to get top 16 at the Michigan Regionals, which was hosted by TrueChampionGaming, another amazing event. It's my third time at the Regionals, so shout out to them for hosting it, and I was actually able to get ninth, so I was able to crack the top 10. Also, shout out to Perfy for winning it. Good friend, and get to play with him at locals all the time. Obviously, a lot of you probably know him. Very, very good player. Shout out to him for the win. But it was one of my 2026 goals to get top placement at a regionals, and we were able to do it in the very first one. So I'm super excited about that, and I'm excited to talk to you guys about the deck I used. It's very similar to the suited aggro list that I used before, with a couple of changes that I want to talk about, as well as talk about some of the matchups and sort of how they felt. So let's go ahead and jump into it. And I'll go through sort of, this is the list that I used. I'll go through, not the whole list here, because some of the, very few changes compared to the last list, which I did a whole video on. But I do want to talk about a couple of the important ones. Starting in the material deck, I dropped 2 cards from the material deck. I dropped the Ornamental Greatsword. I didn't think we needed a second weapon. It was nice sometimes to have the option between sort of Seeking and Ornamental, but I just thought I could get better use out of a different card. And Backup Charger. I also dropped, I thought having the Baubles plus GCR for 2 guaranteed draws was going to be good enough to hopefully get enough pressure through those turns that the third draw wouldn't be as good as the other card I added in. And I'm pretty happy with those decisions. There was only one game where I really would have liked the Backup Charger, but I still ended up being able to pull that one through. So what I added instead are Enfeebling Orb, which was, I pulled this out in every game. I used it at least once in every game. Very, very good. Felt very good. Whether it was potentially trying to push a lethal turn through, forcing my opponent to play their Calming or their Veiling Breeze, or even not even lethal lines. I feel like this is really, really good for just pushing through a big damage turn. If you know you're going to have a big damage turn, try to get their interaction out and just push through that pressure, because that's all this deck is getting as much pressure as possible. So Enfeebling Orb felt great. And the other card was Infernal Vessel. This one also felt pretty good. I brought it out in 2 matchups. I played against one Serene Spirit, where I brought it out. So it was a Serene Spirit Xander, and a Nico list that had some recover in there that I pulled it out as well. And it felt really good in both games. The Nico was forced to deal with it, fracturize it, and the Xander wasn't able to do anything about it. So it felt really nice when I pulled it out. I knew there were going to be a couple of lists at the event that were on fractals. Mainly just, I knew Perfy was going to be on fractals, because once again, I've been playing with him at locals. And I know there's some recovery in there. So having this option in the main board, something to be anti-recover, anti-Arisana as well, because I've struggled against Arisana with this list. I really wanted something in the main board to deal with it, because we have the Fiery Interference in the sideboard. But like I said, it's nice to have something in the main board to deal with it. So the Infernal Vessel did feel really good in that matchup. Main board wise, I can't remember exactly what I took out. I took out a couple things and adjusted some quantities. The big things were I added in Ignis Deus. I believe that's the only brand new card I added from the last list. The reason I added this in were there were some times when I was playing this deck and I would draw into a Blazing Throw or a Rending Flames that if I was level 1, I could use. But obviously, before I didn't know what I was going to draw, so I didn't materialize. I didn't go to level 1 on the materialize. So having this in here gave me some option, where if I draw into a Blazing or a Rending and I need that damage and I think that's a good play, then I can fast speed, main phase, go to level 1, bring out a weapon, either Rending Flames, Blazing, whatever. It made it feel a lot smoother. And after playing with Ignis Deus in, I can confirm that I do think it felt a lot smoother. I did have one instance where I was able to do the level up Rending Flames, win the game. I think I would have had enough damage either way, but it was just nice to have that as an option, and it felt really good. The only other things that I changed were some numbers. Straight Flare went to 4. I don't think it was at 4 before, which is a little bit insane. This should have been a 4 of off rip. Maybe it was at 4, but I know that Peppered Chef was not at 4, and I turned that into a 4 of, mainly because Peppered Chef is an optional. It's one of the finisher cards for the turn 2 kill line. There are a couple of finisher cards. There's actually 3 finisher cards for the turn 2 kill line. So I wanted to have as many chances to get that full turn 2 kill in as I could, because I felt like that was one of the only ways I'd be able to deal with Seryus, is killing them on turn 2. Or at least providing so much pressure that no matter how much influence, they're forced to level up and not just keep stacking influence. So, yeah, so I added that in there. I don't think, if I look at the rest of the list, those were kind of the big changes to talk about. And the list felt really good. Sideboard wise, I had Censor of Restful Peace. I only brought this in once. I still think I would keep it in here. It's just nice to have as an option. Water Diana, I didn't play any, but would have been nice there. Genbu would have been nice there. Didn't play any. So I still like this here, but I only pulled it out once. Nullifying Mirror, only pulled out a couple of times. Once again, I still like it here. I still like it as an option to have, and I would definitely keep it there. Suited Trickery I had in here. I had this for, potentially going up against a Water Diana or any Diana, really, because they want to be attacking with their champion so often. So I had this in there for that matchup. Fiery Interference we talked about for Arsana for the most part, and Surging Bolt was my last one. This was a card that I added kind of right at the end. I was at 13 out of 15 in the sideboard. I couldn't think of what else I might want to add. So I threw Surging Bolt in as a way to just have more non-combat damage options. Something like a CL, like a Fire CL that's playing super slow and just stalling with taunts and intercepts. Or even the Genbus and Seryus, where if I could push just enough damage through that, and then I can't get around their taunts, maybe I have enough between Straight Flare and Surging Bolt to get more through. I didn't pull in any of the main board cards at all. Any of the main board sideboard cards. Any of non-material deck cards that were in my sideboard did not come into the main at any point, because I didn't have any of those matchups. So, it was, I still like these cards here for those matchups. I just didn't run into any of them. So I feel pretty good about my sideboard. But let's talk about some of the matchups a little bit and sort of how they felt. Round 1, I played a Nico with the new Sable Mares something. I can't remember the name of the card, but the one that generates an Icebound Slam. It's also running, I believe it's the list that runs the Slice and Dice. Very cool new version. I don't think it was the exact list, but it did have Slice and Dice in it. I believe True Champion just did a video on that, which you may have or may have not seen, but I would recommend checking it out because it's kind of a cool list. And I think in this matchup, it was very, very hard for the Nico to kind of just keep up with the pressure and deal with units. Didn't see Paladins. One time saw a Aquifer Send Shell. Played it on turn 1. I was able to kill it before it even woke up. So I just think it was really hard to keep up with my pressure. I was able to win that one 2-0. Fairly clean games there. So round 1 went pretty smooth. Round 2 went much less smooth. I did run into the Seiryu. I was hoping to dodge as many as possible because it is no secret this list struggles against Seiryu and Tristan, kind of Wind in general, because of how many answers they have and how much influence they can get. But I was actually able to take that one 2-1, and I was able to take one of the games when I was on the draw, which I think is much harder to take a game on the draw against those decks. So the fact that I was able to take a game on the draw felt nice. It was the very first game, so I think there was somewhat of an element of surprise there. Because I think I led with Arthur, and when you lead with Arthur, your opponent's not entirely sure what you're playing. So I was able to put a lot of pressure game one, force some level ups instead of continuing to stack influence. And I think, there were just a scenario where there weren't a lot of answers drawn from the Seiryu player. And then game two, on the draw again, I ended up losing that one pretty handily. And then on the play in the last game, I was able to have a pretty solid start and just kind of, once again, mount enough pressure early that regardless of how the influence went, I was able to get so much damage through and use my material deck, whether it was enfeebling orbs or smoke bombs or whatever, to kind of push through the final bits of damage that I needed at the end. So a really fun game. I mean, it's so difficult playing into the Wind lists, the Seiryu and the Tristans that just generate an absurd amount of influence. But it makes it really fun playing into hard decks because you have to play really, really well to get through. And I was very happy with getting through that one. Round 3 was my loss, my one loss. It was also a Seiryu. I ended up playing Guruthos round 3, who a lot of you probably have heard the name. He is a very, very good player. He's a Worlds competitor, main deck player, very, very good player. I've played him at some store championships as well, and have not beat him yet. So he was able to get me again on the Seiryu. First game, I was able to get a lot of pressure in, but he just played really, really well around all of my... He knew exactly what the threats were, exactly what could happen, played around every card that I could have, and did it very, very well until he was able to kill me with the classic Seiryu burst. Game 2 wasn't close at all. Dream Fairy is just so difficult to deal with, and he had Dream Fairies in both of his opening hands, so... the turn 1 plays, which are almost always, if you have them in your hand, a 4 of Hearts, an Arthur, or a 4 of Spades. Getting that Dream Fairy feels really bad, sets you back an entire turn. It's tough. It's really tough. I will say, though, playing into Seiryu, I really think you kind of want to just play it as... I don't think you want to try to play around that kind of stuff, the Dream Fairies, because you really can't with this list. So I think, based on playing into it, I think you just take I honestly think you play as risky as you would, as you can against Seiryu compared to other matchups, just because it's such an unfavorable matchup that you gotta take as much risk as possible and hope they don't have it if you want to win. And I think that's what helped me in round 2. And I tried it in round 3, and the answers were just there. 4 of Hearts, when you're going turn 1 as a suited player, is such a scary turn 1 play. Because if your opponent kills it, or deals with it, or whatever, you cannot activate its ability. Because you will only have 2 cards in hand. You have to wait until it gets back to your turn, so you can pop one of your Baubles or GCR, and then activate the ability prereq. So if it dies or gets dealt with, it feels horrible. You're an entire turn behind. You wasted a card, a 4-cost card. But when you do get to activate the ability, all of a sudden you have so much pressure. It first of all activates the turn 2 kill line if you have it, which I'll talk about because I was able to execute it in a game. So I'll talk about that later. So it activates that, but it also allows you to just get so much influence and so many threats on the board that it becomes very hard to deal with your board. So I think playing into the Seiryu and the Tristan, you almost play even riskier than you would normally play, just because you gotta try against that list because it's so tough to beat. But yeah, I lost that one 0-2. And then I went into round 4 where I played against the Fire Xander on the Serene Spirit. And this was another case where it felt like, you know, Xander wasn't able to deal with my turn 1 play, whether it was 4 of hearts, 4 of spades, sometimes Arthur, and just with 4 of hearts and 4 of spades, you're able to generate a lot of influence for a fire aggro deck. And once I got all those threats out there, the Xander could not deal with the list. I was able to pop the Serene Spirit in both games very early, so that turns off the fire cards. I think on turn 2, both games maybe, I was able to pop it. So it was just a case where I think it was a really bad matchup for the Xander. It was very hard to deal with my board, forced to turbo to level 3, and even at level 3 by that point, both times there was very little influence left to deal with some of the big threats. So yeah, it felt really good for me. Like I said, I think it was just a really bad matchup for the Xander. And then round 5, this one was the game of beating the Seiryu and round 5 were kind of like really key points in me getting to the top 16, which obviously, but like the Seiryu matchup I was not expected to win, so winning that was really good. And then round 5, I played against a level 1 wind Sylvie aggro deck. Not slimes, but just aggro deck. And boy, that was a tough, interesting matchup. A lot of trying to understand when to trade units, when to just trying to get control of the board, really, was a lot of this back and forth here. And I was able to take it 2-1. It was very close. I lost game 1, and then I was able to take game 2 and game 3. And game 3, I'm not even kidding. There was, like, it was just so close. I had to draw. There were basically like 6 cards in my deck on my last turn that I could draw that got me the lethal that I needed, and I was able to get I was able to draw the blazing throw off of the top, which was enough to push through for the final bit of damage I needed in the game 3, but I was dead next turn guaranteed. So it was just really fun. A lot of I had to my line to win game 3. As I was looking at my hand, I had a Verita, Duchess. Those were my 2 heavy hitters in hand. I had a couple of other suited allies, and I had an okay amount of influence, maybe like 7 or so. I actually had exactly 7, because what my line was, my opponent was at 9 health, 9 damage. So, not health, 9 damage. So my only line at that point, my board had been cleared. I had a ton of suited in the graveyard. I knew I could cast Verita for free. So what I did was I put all of my cards down to hard cast Duchess because there was a nullifying lantern out, so I could not kindle. So I hard cast Duchess to swing for 4 at face, didn't trade. Swung into it. I knew that there wasn't lethal from his side on board. And he could have gotten really close if he swung at me, but he had to trade out, or he had to clear the Duchess, so I was able to live with plenty of life left. And then next turn, I was able to cast Verita for free by banishing cards from my graveyard. So that's another 4 damage. So now he's at 17. And like I said, I had like a 4 of spades in hand. I had, which I guess I could have played, but he had Enfeebling Orb up, so he could make me put down cards. But I drew the Blazing Throw that turn, so I was able to hard cast the Verita, swing for 4, Blazing Throw with my sword that still had 1 durability, and take it. And there was nothing you could do about that because Blazing Throw is a if we read it. It's an additional cost to activate this card to sacrifice the weapon, so you cannot interact with the weapon as I cast this, because it's an additional cost to activate it. So I was able to pull that one through, and that was kind of the big one, because I knew at that point I could ID last round and guarantee the top 16, which my opponent was willing to do. So we ID'd and was able to get 9th place and take home the playmat and the Poison Dagger invite card. Super fun event. A lot of really interesting matchups. The Sylvia Aggro one was so much fun, trying to figure out when it was right to go face, when it was right to clear the board. It was just a lot of really interesting matchups, and I learned a lot playing this list. This is by far my most played list. I feel very comfortable on it, even though it's in a, I guess you could say, not great spot in the meta. I think, it's kind of a good point of, maybe it's not always best to just take the deck that is the best deck, quote unquote. Sometimes it might make more sense to take a deck that's just more medium or more okay, or maybe not in the best spot in the meta, but it has good synergy and does its thing when you know how to play it really well. Because a lot of the lines, just you just have to know kind of your lines and what you're playing for. And I don't think it's always about just bringing the most optimal thing. It's more about what you're comfortable with. So I am excited for the rest of the season. I am planning on going to the Fort Wayne regional, which I believe is coming up in March. That'll be the next sort of big thing. Very excited about that. Don't know if there's going to be another video on here for a while. There's a lot going on. I'm doing a lot of stuff on the other channel, streaming a lot. So if you want to see me stream, check out the Twitch link. Much appreciated. But hopefully around May, mid-May, things are going to settle down a good bit, and maybe can start making some more content here. But I did want to give an update and talk about this because I think it was really fun. Super cool event, and being able to finally get to the top of a regional in my third ever regional, and being able to complete one of my 2026 goals this early was really nice. So I had a lot of fun. Let me know what kind of stuff you guys might want to see when I start making more videos. Hopefully the Grand Archive, the online sandbox, comes out soon-ish. They haven't mentioned anything else about it, but hopefully it does, because I'd be able to make a lot more content that way. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. I really do appreciate it. Once again, shout out to TrueChampionGaming for hosting the regional. Shout out to Perfy for the win. And shout out to Guruthos for kicking my ass, like always. Thank you guys. Hopefully you all have a wonderful rest of your day. Stay safe, stay healthy. I will catch you all in the next video. Peace out.